Thank you. Um, because we start a new year in Advent. So we have officially 2 Sundays left in our church calendar, in our church year, and then we're going to start a whole new year. But another thing that happens is that we've been this last few months in what is called ordinary time. And during ordinary time, we mostly read the Gospels. We read the stories of the life and teachings of Jesus. And this year is the year of Mark. And so we've been reading the story about Mark, or Mark's story of Jesus. But it doesn't just sort of go along. It builds. It builds because it's building toward the cross. It's building toward this big final confrontation. So things have been building in intensity this last while. And then we get to November toward right the end, and things are getting bigger and bigger, right? And now we get it in Mark to the apocalyptic passages, to the big final confrontation, right? Because in the Bible, the Big Bang is at the end, right? It's not at the beginning, and it's not, something you watch on television, right? It's the final triumph of God. But when we talk about these things in the church, we have to remember that this is not the American idea about the end of the world. It's the biblical idea about the end of the world. And the difference is that in the Bible, the end of the world is a good thing because it's not actually the end of the world. Right? The Bible is very clear that its vision of the end is in fact not an end, right? But rather it is God coming down to this earth to fix stuff, to make stuff the way it's supposed to be initially in creation, right? And the dead are going to rise. So there's zombies everywhere, but they're not eating brains, right? They're just back. And things are the way they're supposed to be, right? So when you think about the end of the world and zombies in the church, you're supposed to go, hooray, the end of the world and zombies. It's very different, right? So the vision we read in Daniel was about an earthly kingdom, not a heavenly one, but an earthly kingdom of justice and peace. So this Sunday, right, we read Daniel. We started reading the beginning of Mark chapter 13, which is sort of all of Mark's apocalyptic stuff. He jams it all together in that one little space. And next Sunday is officially the reign of Christ, right? We're mostly going to be celebrating Thanksgiving, but we're sort of building toward this big, huge end. And this apocalyptic desire is natural, right? It's not surprising at all. We as people want justice and peace. Why wouldn't we want justice and peace? Who wouldn't want justice and peace, right? Desire for equality, desire for leaders who are leading us in the right direction rather than the folks we got now. And surely God has a plan. Surely God has some sort of plan to set things right. So we're building toward this big, huge climax, and then we get Advent, and we get a little girl from Nazareth. Her name's Mary. Just nobody from nowhere. She gets a visit from a messenger of God who says, "You can have a baby." She goes, "Okay." And away we go. It's this huge reversal in mood because it was so big, right? And it was so powerful, and then suddenly it's all very, very quiet. It's all very small. It's like you're at a band performance, right? So this is the big finale of the MHS band, their end of the year thing, right? They're on the field and they're marching around and then making the noise and having a great time. And it builds toward the final song. And the final song is their big central number. And it builds and boom, 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 boom. And then everybody stops and sort of wanders off the field. And there's one girl who sits in the middle of the field playing her flute. Somebody goes up to her and says something. She nods, and she keeps playing her flute. And you, well, you might as well go home because you can't hear the flute in the middle of all that stuff anyway. So guess you wander away home too. Advent. Now, there are options. We don't have to do it this way. I got an email this last week from some organization, some company called CrowdSync, and they said, we focus on creating fan experiences primarily through our controllable LED and RFID technology, turning crowds into light shows and connecting guests to the services. I think this would be a great idea, a great addition to your Christmas services. No, we could do that, right? Did you know that you're here for a fan experience? Bet you didn't know that, right? So, right, so we could call this option, let's call this option denial, right? Let's take our Christmas entertainment experience and make it exactly the opposite of the original one, which was very small and very quiet, very anonymous. Or we can pay attention. Or we can pay attention and rejoice. Because we're seeing this huge shift away from cosmic overreaction toward personal interaction. And at that level, we can be part of the story. Because you see, the cosmic apocalypse wants you to be part of the fan experience. That's what the cosmic apocalypse wants. It wants you to be a fan, right? So you're at the big, right, Grateful Dead concert. You can be a fan at the concert, but let's be honest, Bob Weir does not care who you are, doesn't know your name, doesn't want to. But Mary's story that we're going to read in a few weeks is about a God who knows your name. It's about a God who knows your fears and your desires and your needs. And it's about a God who invites and requests and, yes, needs our participation. Because as Mary knew, babies don't get born by themselves. So we are going to celebrate by offering ourselves in quiet participation. God comes to us and we say, oh, I can do that. And this is how the kingdom comes. Not with a bang, not with a whimper, but with regular folks like us doing our part. Amen.